What's up, guys? It's me, Christopher, aka Boinga. And with the Super Bowl right around the corner, I thought that it would be the perfect time to see which Nintendo characters would be the best at football in their respective roles. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to draft an entire offensive football team of 11 characters. Now, I have a few ground rules, but before I say those, I just want to clarify that the characters can use their attributes, abilities, and even powers, and it'll be fair game. Well, maybe not fair game, but it will be included. And if you want to, then you can believe that the other team they're going up against is super overpowered too or something. Although they can't physically harm each other. Well, other than tackling. That's still allowed. The first ground rule is a height limit. I'm gonna go ahead and say that characters like Kraid and Valoo are just a little bit too big to play football. I would set the height limit somewhere roughly around 12 feet tall, which I know is still very tall, but like I said before, just make sure that you believe that the other team is super overpowered too. The next is a jump height limit. There are some characters that can jump super high, or some characters that can actually fly. Now, the average football player can jump about 3 feet high, so to make it fair, I'll say that the characters can jump about 5 feet high. This makes their special powers fair, but not useless. The third rule is no Pokemon, because it would turn this Nintendo characters list into an exclusively Pokemon characters list. I mean, there are 905 different Pokemons with their strengths and weaknesses and stuff, so you would find a Pokemon that could fit every single role. And there are also 16 Pokemon that can learn the move Teleport, and I don't think that teleporting straight to the end zone with the football in your hand is very fair at all, or fun. And the last rule just builds off of the previous rule, which is going to be no teleporting. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't pick characters who can teleport, it just means that those characters can't use that ability. Alright, with our rules out of the way, it's time to pick our first character, which will be the quarterback. And I will be giving a brief description of what each role does, just so that the people who don't know what they do know what they do. The quarterback is the one who throws the ball to receivers, hands the ball off to their teammates, and on rare occasions tries to sneak through the gaps to make a run by themselves. Okay, so for the quarterback, I had two options I was thinking of. The first option would be Yoshi. Yoshi would be good because we've actually seen him throw his eggs in the Yoshi series of games. But then I was thinking that part of the quarterback's role is to be a good leader and try to figure out what the best play to do is. And one of the best ways to do that is by knowing the future. Yeah, I'm talking about Shulk. In football, one of the biggest things is trying to figure out what the other team's gonna try to do to stop your offensive strategy. So knowing what the other team's gonna do and acting accordingly is a pretty big help. The only problem is that Shulk's never been seen throwing anything in Xenoblade, but he does hold a blade that's 4.5 feet long, so his arm strength has to be pretty good, I mean, right? It was a toss-up between Yoshi and Shulk, but I think that Shulk's pros outweigh his cons, so he's our first member of the team. Next up is the running backs. First up, I'll be picking a fullback, and then I'll be picking a halfback. So the fullback's main role is to clear a path for the halfback when the halfback is handed the ball by the quarterback, and they can also protect the quarterback when needed. The fullback should be strong and a little bit speedy, so I was thinking of Wario. He's big and strong and has been seen tackling in the Wario Land series of games. The only thing is that in Wario Land, Wario is kind of slow. But when he tackles, he actually goes faster, so if he strings a few tackles in a row, then he can actually go pretty fast. And in WarioWare Move It, he's seen running away from, cult members, and it seems like he's running pretty fast, and running for a long time too, so that means that his stamina and endurance is pretty good. To sum it all up, Wario is a pretty good pick for the fullback. Next up is the halfback. Their role is to run with the ball when they're handed to by the quarterback, and to be an extra blocker when they're not handed the ball. This one was a pretty easy one to decide, and I picked Captain Falcon. Captain Falcon is very strong and very fit, and he's the second fastest character in Super Smash Bros., second only to a blue hedgehog that can move at the speed of sound. Now, you might think that someone who drives a super fast car doesn't need to be very fast, or even in shape, but you'd be wrong. As summed up by Bing AI, summed up by me, NASCAR drivers need to be fit in order to withstand the high temperatures in the fast-moving cars, which go as fast as 150 miles per hour to 200 miles per hour. The Blue Falcon, which is usually the car that Captain Falcon drives, goes at a max speed of 283 miles per hour, or 457 kilometers. Safe to say, Captain Falcon is in very good shape. Next up are the wide receivers. Wide receivers run up the field to try to catch the football from the quarterback and hopefully get as many yards as possible. The wide receivers should be as fast as possible, and they should also be able to catch stuff really well. The wide receiver I picked is more than qualified for this role, and that is Samus. Now, I know that usually they don't allow men and women to play in the same league, but they also probably don't allow aliens to play, and Samus has Chozo DNA in her and Metroid DNA in her. Also, this is my list, so I can do what I want. It's hard to gauge Samus's power level because in each of the games she gets different abilities, so in some games she's strong at this position and in other games she's pretty weak in this position. I made this tier list that shows which Metroid game she would be good at this position. Now keep in mind that this isn't which version of Samus is the strongest in general, it's which Samus is the strongest at football, and the one I think is strongest is Metroid Dread, so that's what I'll pick. In this game she has the grapple beam, which would be really useful for grabbing the football from long distances thrown by the quarterback. She's also already pretty fast, but if she uses her speed booster, boom, she's basically at the end zone. This wouldn't be too overpowered though, because it takes a few seconds for her to get a speed boost, so it's actually somewhat fair. Her best ability has to be her flash shift though. She can do 3 lightning fast dashes in quick succession, and there's basically no end lag to it, so she can just charge up her speed booster, and then she gone. I was a little bit skeptical if the flash shift could be considered as teleporting, but upon further review you can clearly see that she's just going super fast. There are a few other upgrades that you can argue would help Samus, but the ones I mentioned before are the most helpful ones, so she's on the team. The next wide receiver I was thinking of is Diddy Kong. Now I know that he's a little bit short and probably not an adult and also a monkey, but he's super fast, and despite his shortness, he can still jump up super high to catch the football. And being short might actually help him because he could slip through the cracks and run upfield to catch the football. Although this is primarily speculation, seeing as no one who's 2'7" has ever played in the NFL, but I'd like to believe that it would help him. The real reason why I picked Diddy though is because spider monkeys, which is a type of monkey that Diddy's thought to be, wrap their tails around tree branches that hold their body weight of an average 13 pounds so that they can grab fruit with their hands. So if it can hold their body weight, then it can definitely hold a football, and Diddy's a great pick. Next up is the tight end. The tight end has to be very versatile because they do so many things, like protecting the quarterback, being an extra blocker, being a receiver, and probably some other things I forgot about. I thought long and hard about this decision, but after a little while, I thought that the best candidate would be Ridley. He's big, he's fast, he's strong, he's tall, he can fly, but not that high because of the jump height limit I added, and he's menacing. The only problem is that Ridley is, well, I don't want to be rude, but Ridley's kind of big. Well, at least most of the time he is. And I say most of the time because in most of the games he's in, he's about the same size, estimated to be about 15 to 20 feet tall, in comparison to Samus, who is 6'3", except for the original Metroid, where he's around the same height as Samus. Ridley is crouching down though, so if we take that into account, then he's probably about 9 to 10 feet tall. Now, I don't know why canonically this is. Maybe after his fight with Samus and being revived by the space pirates, they un-Kevin-Hearted him, but that doesn't make sense because in Metroid Zero Mission, which is a remake of the first game, he's huge again. I don't know, I'm not very good at making game theories, but it doesn't matter because if we pick the Ridley from Metroid NES, then it means he can be on the team. The center position is next, and the center is a pretty important role. They should be a good leader because they have to tell their teammates what the best offensive strategy is, and they should also be pretty strong too. They also hike the ball to the quarterback. This pick was somewhat difficult to decide. I wanted someone strong, but someone who was also smart. After thinking about my options for a little bit, I settled on either Ike from Fire Emblem or Ganondorf from Zelda, but in the end, I picked Ike. He's a good leader, and he's also super strong and tall, so yeah, he'd be good. Alright, these next picks should be pretty easy and self-explanatory. The guard and the tackler should be better on the side of the quarterback's less dominant hand, because that's their blind spot. Shulk is right-handed, so the left guard and left tackler should be better than the right guard and right tackler. So the picks go like this. Left guard is King K. Rool, left tackler is Ganondorf, right guard is Bowser, and right tackler is Donkey Kong. All of these characters would be great in these positions, and I don't really have much more to say. Okay, so that's the whole team right there, but I do want to add one more bonus character that would fit this role really well, and that's the role of kicker, which obviously has to be Waluigi. It's really nice to validate Waluigi and give him the respect that he deserves. Anyways, Waluigi's not needed now. Goodbye, Waluigi! Okay, I've made a short demonstration of how a game with these players would go, so enjoy! Welcome to the Nintendo Football League, or as I like to call it, the NFL. My name is Nin. It's 1st and 10, and my name's Doe. Ready, set, Ike! Oh, what a play! And touchdown! Let's watch an action replay of that. So Ike hikes the ball to Shulk, who throws it to Samus, who catches it with her grapple beam. While all that's happening, there's a cluster of players in the middle that's holding off the defense for just long enough for Samus to activate her speed boosters and score the touchdown. Alright, that's been our show. Now let's head back to Boinga to finish the video. Anyways, this was a super unique video for my channel and very different from everything else I've done, and I really want to know if you guys like this type of video, so make sure to throw a football at that like button, or, you know, your finger works too, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, but yeah. See you guys, bye.